Welcome to Chamber Talk, brought to you by North Orange County Chamber, where we explore the stories and insights of leaders, business owners, and CEOs from various sectors who are making a difference in our community and region. Whether you're tuning in via podcast or joining us via video, we're glad to have you here. I'm Andrew Gregson, your host, and in this episode, we're joined by Joe Linz of Century 21 Discovery, who's the founder and CEO. Welcome, Joe, to Chamber Talk.
Thank you, Andrew. Thanks for having me. I appreciate that.
Now, for those of you who would like to know more about Joe, if you jot down onto our podcast there, you'll see episode 20 is when we last interviewed Joe, and that was in a totally different setting. That was back in your old location.
You're right about that.
And you'd given us a little room there that we could use our podcast in, and I appreciate that. That's where this all grew from. Thank you.
That's right. That was a genesis of it all, wasn't it?
It was, and that was December 2022. So since then, you've become a granddad 2 times over, I think. Kids got married, you've moved premises.
We have.
So let's start with the moving there. That was a big deal. How did that all go for you?
So that was a big deal. I got to tell you, to move out of a location that we'd occupied for 30 years. And we moved into the towers. And I've always compared that, Andrew, to the Rams moving from the Coliseum to SoFi Stadium. And that was just a huge, but that was a huge move for us. And it took us a little while to get used to it. And it's a much more modernized space and workspace. And we're just thrilled. We're really happy. And we're also really happy that, the St. Jude Memorial Foundation was able to take over that space, when we left. And just a little bit of technical information. Our lease was up at the end of September, and we actually moved out on September 18th. And to make that move and to go through the tenant improvements in the new spot and all the stuff that we had to do, the team at Century 21 Discovery just did an amazing job, and it was very cool.
Now, it's, obviously the Chamber, it's all about business members and things like that. And I want to delve into a little bit more business today rather than just highlighting, the business you're in.
Good.
So as we're, making a big move like that, administrationally and obviously, logistically, you're the business owner, you're the guy, what types of, challenges did you see? And I know it's down the road, but still it's lifting everything up and putting it down somewhere else.
Well, it's interesting. Stephanie, who's our partner and daughter, Stephanie was in charge of the new location. So we both had, we had assignments going on. And so she was in charge of working with the architect and the management at the towers. My job was to orchestrate the move out of our existing building. And we both stayed in our lanes, and we both did what our job was to do. And it son of a gun, when you have a list, and you work off that list, stuff gets done.
Now, you being a real estate agent and have done it for many years, how did you find the experience of the new lease agreement for commercial property? Did you have to do a little bit of negotiating? Are there any tips and tricks you can share with the audience there in case they're doing the same thing?
It's interesting that you say that. My specialty has always been, on the residential real estate brokerage side. My dad was a commercial industrial broker, and when he was alive. And so, and that never really interested me. But what I did with that part of it is I entrusted my youngest son, Casey, who is also a commercial broker. So he and Stephanie and I and Susie worked really closely together in making that happen and bringing that together. When people with good intentions come together, including the folks at the towers and all of that, it was not a difficult process. It was emotional, but but difficult. No, it was very well received and very well done.
Well, it looked from the outside that you guys like said, "Oh, we're moving," and then the following day we're all in. That's what it looked like from the outside. So it's very good. So if anybody wants to visit your wonderful location, it's at the Century 21 Discovery Tower, right? Which is, what's the address, Joe?
It's the 1440 building, 1440 North Harbor, and we're in Suite 225.
And that's the North Tower, isn't it?
That's the North Tower.
Yeah.
And then our escrow company, Equity Escrow Group, is in Suite 230, just right
just
next
a few
door.
doors down,
yeah,
isn't it?
you know, and so it's really, you know, we were able to just take our footprint and re-put it, re-put it. That's a good word. And just put it to a new space. And, everybody's happy.
And I must admit, I also owe you a big thank you. I know we said it quite a few times on the podcast, but during our time whilst we had the fire, you were gracious enough to let us have and utilize some of your space there in your wonderful conference room, where we got to interview quite a few amazing people. So we really do appreciate that. Thank you so very much.
Oh, you know what, Andrew? It's our pleasure. I'm a big proponent of community and community outreach, and I think anytime anybody wants to use our space for, their board meetings or whatever, just pick up the phone and call us. And I've always said, my house is your house.
I really do appreciate that, Joe. Thanks. And that was a good segue into, without you knowing what's written down here, is community outreach. A word that I always struggle with saying is philanthropy.
Yeah.
And it's not something that I struggle saying because I don't like giving. It's just, I don't know, it's a tongue twister for me. Now, I know that, over the years, you've given a lot to the community. You've been on various non-profit boards and things like that. You even have your own sort of organization that helps other organizations. And these things often go untold because we're very humbled by doing it, but I feel that it's only fair that we point this out, and I would love for you to share a little bit about that organization you started and some of the great things that you've done over the years.
Well, thanks, Andrew. We have the Discovery Charity Foundation, and we've raised over and given back to the community over $400,000, and that happened this year. We get together once a year, have a community event, and we have a dinner, silent auction, and we get together with friends and people in the community, come together, and we raise some funds, and then we have a committee that works on who we're going to give those funds to, and then we have a robust, uncomfortable meeting to where we narrow it down to, last year we had eight recipients, and we love our community and we love to help those that help others, and that is our mission statement with that particular foundation. And you're right, I've been able to serve on different boards and foundation boards, and that's where I learned it. I learned how to do it from being a part of, St. Jude Memorial Foundation, the Boys and Girls Club, YMCA, and then Susie was part of WTLC, which is now Radiant.
Radiant Futures, right?
Yeah. And Stephanie is involved with Hope, and so we're involved in all these different foundations and groups that are helping others grow, and it's just part of giving back to the community. My mom and dad taught me that.
Well, it's really great to see too. It's getting far and few between these days, and it's nice that folks who, they've built their world around the community are able to still give back to the community and able to do it. So that's amazing, and it's one of the. There's only a few things that I admire about you, Joe, but that's definitely one of them.
Thank you.
So, again, it's sort of like seems to be flowing quite well today, Joe. From donations and foundations and things like that. Right now, it's on everybody's mind who's up in this area of California for sure about the fires. And we're not going to go into who's whys and what fors, but I do have quite a serious question for you, because you are in this world. To somebody, not talking about necessarily Palisades or anything like that, but even just locally, to somebody who loses their home to a fire, my question to you is what do you do in that aspect? Are you looking from a real estate industry standpoint? Does somebody rebuild? Do they sell to a developer? I mean, what is the going thing that somebody should maybe think about doing?
Wow. I first of all, I can't imagine. I can't imagine losing everything
Yeah.
just like that.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine being out of town and knowing that my pet was in my home,
Mm-hmm.
and my home was, and I didn't even know it was being destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't, and coming home to that, I couldn't imagine that. I just can't. But what we do need to think about is the extreme, personal decision that is, and how, some people are going to say, you know what, I'm going to rebuild. Others are going to say, yeah, I can't do that again. And take that risk. And then some of those homes had been in the families for, 100 years. And so really taking a look at that, and we're starting to see folks that the people are resilient too.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, people are strong.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it's like Reverend Schuller said it, when he was alive, tough times don't last, but tough people do.
Mm-hmm.
And, so people are resilient. So we're going to figure that out here shortly. And then we're seeing some of those folks coming in to Orange County that, I mean, they got to live someplace.
Of course.
And they're
regardless of what you're going to do.
They're
right.
looking for places to lease and then to rebuild. It's going to take, it's going to take a while.
It's going to take a long time, isn't it?
Yeah. And you think about it, it's going to take workers. It's going to take, the contractors and the workers and the professionals are doing that, materials, and then just the magnitude of it all is just, it's staggering.
And then you still got 9 times out of 10, you still got a mortgage to pay whilst this is going on. It didn't go away.
You got that right.
They're stopping it for a few days, but you still got that.
Right. And
now, sorry, go on.
Then you got and you do have some moratoriums coming into, and a lot of, assistant and programs that are doing that. But, in the meantime, it's difficult. Like I said, Matt, I couldn't imagine, Andrew.
And do you think that the effect overall, in long term, because it's not going to be any time soon, because you've got to clear it all. They've got to go through hazmat stuff. You've got people who want to go clear it in case you can find valuables. It takes a long time.
It's daunting.
There's not that many cleanup crews that can go in and do it, because it's a huge disaster. Right. Obviously, it's going to take up, I'm assuming, a lot of rental properties, like almost immediately.
Yeah.
And then, do you think house sales are going to, because we were already a little bit of a shortage, is that going to put us really short now?
It's like, the demand for residential real estate has just expanded.
Right.
The demand has got even stronger due to that.
Right.
And and I don't know what the exact count is, but in my mind, I think it's around 12,000, homes that were destroyed, and you think about each one of those has 1, 2, 3 families.
People in it, right,
and there's significant. They got to find a place to live,
right?
That's important, and they can't hunker down in a hotel for the next 5 years.
No.
So that in itself. But the good news is like I received a notice from the Department of Real Estate a week ago that just reminded everybody that there are anti-gouging laws in
it's been
California.
coming up for the news, hasn't it? Right.
And it's like my dad always said, don't kick somebody when they're down.
Yeah.
Let's reach out a hand and help them out.
Yeah.
And see what we can do to help them improve their lives, and that improves the lives of everybody.
Yeah, it does. You're right. Well, hearts go out to it all, obviously, and everybody is being affected, and it is deep there, and it's just something that's got you right. There's nothing more than a crisis that makes everybody bond stronger together, do things that you never thought you'd do before. So,
that's right.
There's always some good out of it, no matter what.
Well, the interesting thing is, and I was talking with one of my agents just yesterday about it, and when you look at the news and you look beyond the news, there's a lot of good people doing a lot of good things. There's a few bad guys doing bad things, but you look beyond that.
There's more good than bad.
Oh goodness, there's a lot of good people doing good stuff.
So moving into the real estate industry itself, obviously it's a very dynamic market.
Yeah.
And over the past few years, I'm sure a lot of people have heard things that have been going on. But I want to go a little bit further out from that and stick more to the business side.
Sure.
The industry you're in, it's very sort of like now. So to give an example of what I'm meaning is if people are changing the way that they advertise online, you've got to be on it too, right?
You're right about that.
It's a little bit like my industry, really, with the same thing. Whereas a lot of folks, like an attorney, he or she might not have to do that type of thing. What type of adjustments does that do to a business sense? Because you've got everything that's going on anyway. But the thing is with new advertising, marketing things, you've almost got to be on the dot every time.
So, Andrew, I am one lucky guy. I don't have to think about that.
Right.
But Susie, my wife, Susie, and everybody would always ask her, what are you going to do when the kids are out of school? And because she stayed home and raised them, and she always said she's going to go back and get her degree. And Susie went back and got her degree in communications, and she understands the marketing game, and that's her passion. So she is the director of communications for our company, and she knows how to really put out the information, whether it's social media, written media, online, whatever it needs to be. She gets it, and she understands the tools that are necessary to do that. And the word pivot is a kind of a worn out word.
Yeah, but it explains what you got to do, doesn't it?
And she's able to do that really quickly for us, and really help our agents promote their clients, because our job is really to promote our clients' product.
Right.
When they're selling their home, our job is really make sure that as many eyeballs can see that as possible, so that we do a good job of representing what they have and their asset. So,
and that leads us into the next thing, which is basically sales teams.
Yeah.
So, regardless of really what industry in, somebody has to sell something. If you're at a doctor's office, they've got to sell you on using that doctor rather than using the one down the hall, right?
You're right.
Or attorneys are the same thing. But when it comes to your industry, you're like big car dealerships or things like that. You have a lot of sales associates.
Yeah.
And gathering them sometimes, I would imagine, might be like herding cats. But, you have to continue sharing this wealth of information and also, keep them motivated as a sales team. So what types of things do you have to do to take care of within business to keep that team alive and going?
Wow. I'll tell you, first of all, for me, I hire people that I love. and that makes it
easier.
That makes it much easier.
Right.
And so, when I see somebody's car in the parking lot, it's like I'm anxious to see them and say hi and share thoughts with them. The other thing is it's some of it's luck, some of it's I don't know, but Stephanie, my daughter, is also a broker with us and is also a partner with us. So she is looking at that cutting edge stuff, the cutting edge changes in our industry. I have more of a historical view on stuff, but the thing that I have is I'm really curious. I'm really curious about our business. I'm really curious about real estate, and I'm passionate about it. And so last year was the year of historic change in the real estate industry, and just how agency applies to buyers versus how it applies to sellers and the differentiation of that. And she was able to guide our company through that change, and that change was just historical, to where, some folks said it was a game changer for some folks that said, I don't want to do this anymore. And yet others said, okay, I'm on. And we really trained heavily on it, and we're comfortable with those changes, and bring it, because I learned, she taught, I paid attention, everybody else paid attention, and we come together as a group that really got it. So we're helping teach the industry as well, I think.
Now, that's another prudent point there, isn't it? Is, legislation, folks don't really realize, can really dramatically change a whole business, a whole industry.
Well, you're right. I mean, it's like there's no conversation about it.
Yeah, it's overnight. That's it.
August 17th,
Right.
you're changing.
Right. And so, as a business owner, that's a little scary. It's a little out there. So, and I know you're going to go, well, I've got to embrace it. I've got to do this on here, because that's what you got to do.
Right.
But generally, how sort of like daunting is that could happen at any moment, because it could really make or break a month, a year, or whatever for a corporation.
Well, you're right about that. And that's the importance of, really being on that cutting edge, and really just paying attention. And, gosh, I mean, the big buzzword now is just show up, right? and then the other thing is that it's not Joe and Stephanie and Susie going on this thing alone. We've got, the Pacific West Association of Realtors, which has done an amazing job of cascading that information to us, along with the California Association of Realtors, that and those two groups, and if you pay attention to what they're doing, have really done a wonderful job of cascading that information that came down from the national level. And really, there was really no excuse not to know. It was just, how passionate and how much you're going to take it and run with it, and really, understand that it's for the benefit of the consumer at the end.
Now, I thought it was a good point you just mentioned, that it's not just you, Stephanie, and Susie. Every time I mention her name, I think I've got to sit up straight, because she does these etiquette lessons.
That too.
But it was a good point, because it sort of brings us into collaboration.
Yeah.
And I don't think a lot of folks in business, especially when they're starting off, maybe somebody not be more seasoned, they don't realize the importance of collaboration and working with other businesses and other people within the community, whether they run parallel with them or whether they're totally opposites. And I know you know a lot about that. You want to share a little bit about how important it is to collaborate, and why, and what for, and things?
Oh my goodness. Collaboration is, I think,
it's like collaboration is key.
Well, it is key, but it's also kind of a lost art at times.
Yeah.
And, and this competitive nature is all, okay, that's great. But at the same time, to really collaborate, and to really, and when I talk about collaboration between firms, even, between agents and different real estate firms, and what are we collaborating on? And we really are, if we're sharing our information on what we have on behalf of the consumer and the client, then we're doing good collaboration. When we're just beating our chest to say that we're the best, it's like that doesn't help the consumer. But when I know that, broker X can call me and say, hey, Joe, you know what? I've got a buyer who's looking for this specific piece of property, and, have you got anything? And you know what? I got that call last year from a friend of mine, that we've known each other for 40 years. And, he called me up, and I said, hey, I don't have anything off the top of my head, but, it's on my head now. And I called him no less than 6 times in the next 2 or 3 weeks, with properties that I had run into that that helped him. And I think when you help others, you're helping yourself, you're helping the client, and the end result is really helping the consumer buy and sell real estate and achieve their goals and their dreams of home ownership.
Now, I wanted to touch on a moment about your own business. So obviously, real estate is a big deal, and you have your own other business, which is to do with escrow, right? Can you share with those who might not be quite sure how they fold into each other there a little bit?
Sure.
I mean, they're not together. Got to keep that legally. They're separate, but
I got to keep them separate, legally, and just one of them is governed by the Department of Real Estate. The other one is DFPI. And escrow is that neutral third party that handles and disperses all the funds and ensures that everybody does what they said they were going to do in writing as far as the contract is concerned. So they are like the orchestra conductor. And they are, when the lender gets ready to fund and title company and all those folks, there's about 180 steps that go into a real estate transaction. I put together a file yesterday for one of our clients needed a copy of a paper file. They wanted that for their family. And it was 1.5 inches thick. And it's like I burned up my printer, but that's okay. It was like, oh my goodness. I thought I'd say 10 minutes, 45 minutes later, and I'm putting it together. And I thought, wow, it's that thick.
Lot.
Yeah. But, escrow, that's their job. And it's a different hat that you wear. And then, of course, then you have the brokerage on the other side, which is active in the, listing and sales of real estate. And, we do, some of our businesses, most of our business is residential real estate.
Mm-hmm.
We also do a good chunk of commercial real estate and investment. So, we're able to do the apartments and the rental properties. And then we've got a few that really specialize in that commercial side of the space.
Now I'm just guessing here.
Yeah,
I'm not sure, but so with you having an escrow company, that doesn't necessarily mean that escrow company just has to feed your brokerage. I'm assuming that escrow company can help anyone, or
so that's a good point. You have 3 different brokerage models or 3 different escrow models. One of them is governed by the Department of Real Estate. That business is, they can only do business that brokerage is involved in.
Okay.
So that's that. Then you have the insurance, the Department of Insurance that governs, and that's like a title insurance company would have their escrow division, and they're governing that, and they can do, pretty much then. And then the granddaddy of them all is the DFPI, which we're under, and that's a completely separate entity, and they come in, and we have to, do an independent audit yearly and send that off to Sacramento. They can come in, with
check your books or whatever,
check your books
right.
And audit you at any time. They've come in at 8:00 in the morning and been in the parking lot, and so we're here.
Right.
And my response is, hey, come on in. Here you go. It's an open book, and we take great pride in that. I think if you work really hard to run a good, clean business, you can, sleep better at night. And, it's like,
well, you can enjoy yourself better because you're not worried about what's going to come out off the other side.
It's like my dad again was a big influence, and he was in charge of the credit union at our church one time. It was a small credit union. And, I remember one day, a group wanted to come in and audit, and they knocked on the front door, and he just, come on in, here you go. And everything, of course, was fine. And having that's checks and balances is really, that's necessary too, Andrew. You got to have, the proper checks and balances.
So we're going to go to a break right now. Welcome to the Grand Hotel and Suite here in Buono Park. We're literally only a stone's throw away from the 91 freeway and about a mile away from the 5 freeway. Literally located off Beach Boulevard. So this particular room is the King Suite. And then the main difference between this room and the others is, for a start, we have this large couch, and also it folds out and fits 2. And if you follow me this way, we have a lovely kitchen table and also a kitchenette, which has a refrigerator and a microwave. Beautiful, fully furnished bathroom. And then finally walking straight into here, into the king suite with a king suite bedroom. So now we're in the queen suite. What makes this different to the other room we were in was not only do we have the larger couch that fits 2 people, but if you follow me this way, folks, we're going to be able to come in here and you'll see we have 2 queen beds, which fits 2 more people. So that means this suite actually fits 6. So for those of you who may be looking for a hotel here in Buono Park, maybe you're even displaced because of the fires that have recently come on, this would be a great hotel to stay with your family, and of course has plenty of parking and plenty of places for your luggage. One of the other beautiful things about staying here is you come outside your room and you're met with this beautiful tranquil area with a pool, a hot tub, and then of course if you just want to sit down and read your book, you sit down next to this beautiful water fountain. This hotel captures the history of Buono Park. And not forgetting, like any hotel, you've got free Wi-Fi, complimentary coffee, and soon, continental breakfast. So thank you for watching our video on the Grand Hotel and Suites of Buono Park. Until next time, see you later. Safe travels. So, Joe, you did mention a little bit of, we were talking about collaboration a couple of minutes ago.
Yeah.
And I would like to sort of ask you as a business member, how does the chamber fit into your business?
Man, the chamber is really what I look for is the bringing different businesses together and getting us in the same room and letting us just get to know each other. How do we complement each other's business? How do I help, somebody grow their business? How do they help me grow my business? And that's kind of what it's all about is really, helping each other grow. And you're the catalyst for that. And the chamber is by far the catalyst for bringing those people together and really being that cog, that center of the wheel to where, when somebody needs something and it's like, what do they call, it's like, where would you go get your hair cut? Where's a good meal? Where's, somebody new coming into town and the chamber is just plays a vital role in that. And I know that footprint has changed, over the years as well. But, I'm grateful for, I don't adapt to change. Well, I don't like change, but, I'm grateful for change. I'm grateful that the medical profession is different than it was 10 years ago. We're curing things they're curing things that we're
couldn't be cured about them. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And, I think everything, for the most part, we're trying to strive and become better at what we do. And, when I go to a chamber event, I've never walked out saying, that was a waste of time. But the other thing is that I've always met a new friend and somebody that I could always call on the phone and say, hey, listen, can you help me with this? Or I've got somebody interested in this. And, I know that that you do whatever. And I think those are all just critical moments in time that, we come together and network.
That's good. I'm glad it works for you, Joe.
Thank you.
That it'd be terrible to have somebody on and they'd say, "Oh, it's terrible." Anyway, yes.
Well, but Andrew, I know you well enough that I know how hard you work, and I know what keeps you up at night, and I know that you take it very seriously. And when somebody takes it seriously, they show up and they work hard to make it better and better and better, and every day is a just working towards bettering those around you. And a rising tide raises all ships or all boats, and I think you play a big role in that, and I think chamber plays a big role in that as well.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it. So another big thing that you do, and if anybody ever follows Joe on his social media or even see what he does, is obviously you're into keeping yourself fit, keep yourself healthy. And one of the things is you're proud that you're clocking up so many miles on your two legs, not on your car.
Yeah.
You want to share a little bit about how that rolls into your work life too, and general life as being a granddad, husband, father?
Susie and I have really adopted a routine to where we get up in the morning and we begin our day with a workout. And she's working on the Miracle Morning right now, and which is really another concept and a cool deal that she's working on six items each morning, and it's everything from the mindset to physical activity. And we go to the gym, and I think a body in motion stays in motion, and I remember there was a guy who lived across the street from me many, many, many years ago. And I had I had a Model A, and he was like, wow. And I said, come on, get in, let's go for a ride. And he couldn't get in. And the disappointment in his look on his face was like, wow. And so, yeah, I mean, I think for goals, it's important. So last year, my goal was 450 miles. And I got into about July, and I knew I was going to hit it, and I raised it up to 501 and hit the 503 mark at the end of the year. In 2025, my goal is 600 miles. And I think that it's good for, not only the mind, but it's good for your physical as well, and spiritually. I think it's important to pay attention to what you're thinking, and that gives you the opportunity to do that.
So 600 miles, what are you averaging? Do you do this 5 days a week, 7 days a week?
No, I'm out there 3 to 5 days a week. If I do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then the goal is, at that point, if you do the numbers, it's 50 miles a month. So you're breaking it down to about 12, 13 miles a week. And then in order to do that, I knew that I had to take a day, Saturday or Sunday, and, get in another 3 or 4 miles. And Fullerton is such a great place.
Yeah, you got some good
with
walking
the trails,
paths,
man.
The trails, that's true.
And I think I hit every square foot of trails last weekend when I did that 15 miler. But right. That's unique. The last time I did that many miles was in 2013, and I was looking at that last night. I was because I've been doing it for a long, long time.
Now, another part of health, and I hope you don't mind me asking you about it, but every now and again you'll go on a retreat.
Yeah.
It's a religious retreat.
Yeah.
And basically, which must be really difficult for you, is you're going to be quiet for like 40 hours or something. So how does that weigh on an individual?
It was really interesting because if the first time I went, if I would have known that it was a silent retreat, I wouldn't have gone. It's like, I'm not doing that. But when I got there and I realized it, and it's up in Sierra Madre. It's the same place my dad used to go to when I was a little kid, and it starts on Friday afternoon and it goes through Sunday at noon. And I remember him coming home. And, last year when I came home, I remember Susie and I were going someplace on Sunday afternoon. She says, man, you're talking a lot. I said, yeah, I got a lot of pent up words. I had to be quiet for 3 days. And then I think with being quiet and silence and everybody wants to shut their brain off. And I don't think that I heard the interesting concept to where it's not about shutting your brain off. It's about taking the time to slow down and really listen to what your brain is telling you, and paying attention to that. And that was the whole point of last weekend when I did the 15 miles. It was, our retreat was canceled this year because they did sustain fire damage. It looks like they're going to be able to open again sometime in February. And so next year I'll be able to get that in. But that was part of Saturday to where I needed to do something to honor that. And I said, I'm going to go out and do 10 or 15 miles. And then, my own crazy psychic is like, there is no such thing as 10 or 15. It's 15.
Right.
And it was hard. It was hard, but I as you can tell, it's something I'm proud of too.
How do you clock your miles on a watch or your phone? Or?
I've got my phone, and
you count, right?
It's
does
got
a GPS thing, does it?
Yeah, it's got
right.
And it's a program that I have, an app, and and that's how I went back last night. I'm sitting there, and I went back and looked at the history of it, and I could go back to 2013.
Oh, wow. That's handy, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's not. I started it when I turned 40, and so that was quite
a
long time ago.
You remind me of Forrest Gump.
yeah, run.
So in a moment, I'd like to give you the, when we get to that moment where we always ask somebody if we missed something or if they have a final message or what they'd like to say. Right. But just before we do, Joe, because it's you, I thought I'd come up with a few questions of a rapid question, rapid fire type thing.
Cool.
So one of them, the first one is favorite thing about working in real estate? People, that's a nice one. Biggest misconception people have about escrow?
Just don't understand that they are that neutral third party that really makes no decisions. They do what they're told to do and right.
They're just doing the process.
They're doing the process.
One book or resource every business owner should read?
Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
Oh, look at that. I'd have been stretching on that one. Best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, man.
Or at least one of them.
This is easy. My dad gave me this advice. My dad was a great dad. And this was before I was married. I was a young guy. I was in my teens, and we were in the garage, and I had 5 brothers and sisters, so it wasn't a little family. But my dad and I were in the garage, and I said, "Hey, Dad," I said, "what's it take to be a really good parent?" And he said, "Joe," he says, "you just got to say yes more than you say no." He said, "Because when you say yes, most parents will say no a lot to get themselves off the hook.
Mm-hmm.
When you say yes, you've got to take them to that practice. You got to take them to whatever it is. You got to partake in that. You got to be part of them, and you got to interact with them, and that makes you a better parent." And he was right. He was right about a lot of things.
Be present. I like that. So, Joe, as we're wrapping up, any final thoughts? Anything that we've missed? Anything you'd like to share with the audience today?
I don't know, Andrew. It's just I'm blessed to be able to go on the travels that I go on, and I don't mean traveling physically. It's just that journey of life. I've I've got a great family that I'm able to work with and be with, and a wife who I think she still likes me, and that's pretty cool. But just having direction and, being able to be involved and being in a business to where, I'm not physically being taxed to where, you retire to save the body.
Mm-hmm.
No, I get to keep going as long as I'm relevant. And that's the big key, and contributing. And that's my big deal is I just want to stay vibrant and relevant and contribute to those around me and do what I can to make Fullerton and North Orange County and the world a better place. And that I enjoy doing.
Well, I think the world's definitely a better place with you in it than without you, Joe. So I definitely appreciate everything you do for us as well.
Charge on.
Charge on. There you go. Thank you, Joe. And thank you to everybody who's been watching or listening. If you've enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Stay tuned for more inspiring conversations on Chamber Talk by visiting nocchamber.com and select Listen to Chamber Talk or select Podcast at the top of the page. Until next time, stay inspired and keep making an impact.